Hello, it's Cisvolk. Time to enjoy card making with me. Today I will be using these tulip flower dies together with the slimline layering stencils from ALINACRAFT. I will make 2 cards and matching envelopes using just one ink blended paper piece. All products are listed below. Here I have the C1 layering stencil set. It consists of 4 different stencils that you can also use separately. The pattern I'm going to make is created by ink blending these 4 different stencils one after the other on the same piece of paper. It doesn't matter which stencil you start with. What is wise to do is to mark off the circles at the top and bottom beforehand, so that you put each stencil in exactly the right place. That makes a difference to the result. For my design I use 2 colors of memento ink. They are the teal zeal and the orange tangelo. I blend the cubes on the outside a little darker than on the inside. And for the cubes in the middle, I let the 2 colors blend into each other to create a 3rd color. When placing the next stencil, I make sure that the circles I've marked out fit together properly. I ink blend with the brushes from ALINACRAFT. These are so handy with all of the different colors. By the 3rd stencil you can already see a pattern starting to emerge. I try not to color all the blocks the same thickness. To get a more playful effect and depth in the pattern, I color some pieces lighter and other pieces a little darker. And in the middle again I let the orange and teal blend into each other. For the last stencil I put a little thicker ink everywhere. I rotate circles with the brush in both directions to give ink to both sides of the stencil seams. The paper I use is 120 grams DCP paper. Because this is somewhat thinner paper, it is easier to stick on a card or envelope without the card becoming too thick. For a card itself I usually use 250 grams white DCP paper. I really enjoy doing this, and look what a great result it gives. I'm going to use these tulip dies. They are from the newest release at ALINACRAFT store. They come with a small card that shows an example of how to put them together to make a tulip. But you don't necessarily have to follow this way. You can make multiple flowers by placing the leaves in a different way. I keep the piece of paper where the dies come out. Behind the openings I put some purple tape. Washi tape or masking tape will also work. I temporarily stick the die cuts back in here. I do the same with the leaves. It is easier to color the die cuts this way. I color the leaves with the teal zeal ink. This way I can ink blend without the whole thing shifting and my fingers getting dirty. Although they are already pretty colored. I give them a touch of shade with a little orange ink. The flowers are best inked a little darker on the bottom than on the top. So by that I mean the part closest to the stem. That's why I always start inking at the base of the petals. Occasionally I blend some ink onto my glass mat first to prevent a thick ink blot on the petals. I'm now trying to recreate the flowers as shown in the example, but you can vary quite a bit and make the flowers look completely different. Those mint green leaves fit in nicely too. Now I wonder what you use this for. Is it an extra leaf or a pestle for the flower perhaps? I think it can be both in my opinion. I decide to die cut it in black and make it into a black pestle. I trim the stencil paper so that the edges are off. I want to start using the middle piece of paper. Do not worry, I'm going to completely use up the scraps as well. The size of my card is 10.5 by 14.8 centimeters. The template is a little narrower and I cut a piece at 15 centimeters, so I still have to cut this little edge off. This way it will fit on the card. I want to keep the card to be fairly flat, but still add as much dimension to it as possible. What we're doing now is we're cutting off 1/2 centimeter on each side of the panel. I'm trying to show it. With a guillotine cutter sometimes it's hard to see the size, but it works this way. We now have 2 narrow edges on the sides. Notice how cool it looks when I draw a black line on the sides of the panel with a permanent marker. I do this for the narrow edges on the inside as well. Hold it tightly and try to go through in one pass to get a nice even line. I hold a piece of scrap paper under it and actually draw the line on that paper. My panel just glides along it that way. I stick the strips and the panel on it with double-sided tape. ALINACRAFT sells them in different widths. These rolls are almost finished again. They are 3 and 5 mm wide. Align the strip along the edge of the card and don't immediately pull off the entire adhesive strip. Notice how I do it piece by piece? That's how it works best for the panel too. Tape the strips to the sides first before you tape the center. That way you can see better if you are aligning right in the middle. To give the flowers a nice contrast, I have die cut all the flowers and leaves from black paper. I glue these black die cuts behind the colored ones and let them stick out a few millimeters on the left side. I make sure that I do not put glue on the left side of the petal, otherwise the glue will come out from underneath. Under my clear block it dries up flat. I did the same for all the flower petals. And now just enjoy shifting the petals around. You never get the same flower twice. Every time something changes. I still had this sentiment lying around. It fits in very nicely. It is from an older banner text sentiment stamp set with including frame dies by ALINACRAFT. The stem is perfectly curved but a little too short, so I cut the stem to make it longer. Notice when I glue the sentiment over it, I overlap exactly the hole that is created. I glue the stem first so I know exactly how the flower will come into place. Start by gluing the bottom petals and also the outer petals. The outer petals in the center may overlap just fine. And the pistil in the middle. Please note that the pistil is an extension of the stem. It would look unnatural if you had it pointing in a different direction. I'll place it a little lower as I find it too long. And I think it might be a different kind of flower now. I'm going to glue the text on with this strip of homemade double-sided foam tape. I'll show you how to make this yourself in a minute. It's very easy to do and much easier than having to color white foam tape black with a permanent marker every time. The leaf is a little too long, so I cut it off. I could have glued the leaves and the stem first, but if I had then glued the text on top of that with the foam tape, it would not be flat. The place where the dies are underneath would then stick out a bit bumpy under the sentiment, and I don't like that. I glue the part of the stem that I cut off before back on the panel under the sentiment, just in line with the rest of the stem. I think my text appears crooked. That's what happens when I stick a text down without my T-ruler. It goes crooked. Fortunately, I can still straighten it out. The card is done and now I will show you how I made the black adhesive strips. Look, here I have the black fun foam that I'm going to make the double-sided foam strips out of. I got these from ALINACRAFT. There are many different colors available. This one is 3 mm thick. These foam blocks from 3M are the same thickness, you see. Alina sells them too, they stick very firmly. You can use any kind of fun foam. 2 mm thickness will do just fine too. Now I take an A4 sheet of black fun foam. I have to say that it actually smells a bit, but hey, I'm going to put double-sided tape on it later, so the smell will be less. To start with, I cut it in half. I don't need that much right now. Fun foam is very easy to cut and trim, but also to die cut, by the way. Here I have a package of double-sided tape in A4 format. There are 10 sheets in a package. Each sheet has a white and a yellow side. The yellow side is the thinnest and the easiest to remove in this case because the edge sticks out. I pull a corner loose and align the bottom and side of the tape well before sticking this loose corner. Then I pull the bottom adhesive layer loose and push it on tight. Now I cut the adhesive film loose, and the other half I now adhere to the other side of the fun foam in exactly the same way. The edge of double-sided tape that I have left over I do not let go to waste. I stick it back on the backing of the tape and I save it for another time. Now I can cut nice strips from this double-sided foam that are ideal for gluing black die cuts raised on the card or black strips raised on the card without it being noticeable. And they stick super strong too. Ideal in any size you need. I can also keep a large piece to cut out individual figures, which works really well too. So I keep these strips with my foam blocks, so I always have them at hand. For the envelope, I'm just looking to see what I can do with the scraps I have left over. They are quite large. I'm going to cut a small strip from them. About 8 mm for the small one and 2 cm for the larger one. I will make these strips stand out by drawing a black line with a permanent marker on one side of the strip. Without my T-ruler, I can't get it to stick straight. I'm trying to do that now with a thin strip, but I can't get it 100% straight. The paper is too thin for that. No problem, I will partially glue a tulip over it. The stem that fits best, I give some extra shadow and color at the top by blending over it with a little extra orange. I didn't even dip in the ink. This is ink what was left on my blending brush. Since I don't want to make the envelope too thick, I made the edge of the tulip black with my marker and I stick the shapes on with glue. I'm very curious to know if you have ever decorated your envelope. Would you like to let me know in the comments? See how nicely they fit together? The idea for the envelope can, of course, be also used for a card. And of course, you don't always have to decorate an envelope like I always do. For the other card, that I will show you later on, I made the envelope in the following way. First, I masked the envelope with painter's tape and washi tape. I did that after I powdered the envelope with talcum powder. Otherwise, I could tear the envelope when removing the tape later. Then I draw the hole in the stencil, so I know that the next stencil will be in exactly the same place. Now I ink blend with the stencil over the masked part of the envelope. And again I ink blend using all 4 stencils. This is still the C1 Slimline Layering Stencil set. This is also still the orange Memento Tangelo that I use. Sometimes I blend darker blocks and other times I blend the blocks a little lighter. This way you get depth in the shape. Now I gently pull the washi tape off. Always pull the tape off the paper and pull it off with a tight curve, so don't pull it up. Otherwise you will tear the paper. Using my T-ruler that I hooked to my glass mat, I draw a black line with a fine liner next to the right side of the stenciled patterns. This is one of the stamp sets from Alina's store that I love using. I find them very handy and versatile. It's an old sentiment stamp, and although the quality is a bit lower than the newer stamps available in the ALINACRAFT store, I keep reaching for it. I'm stamping a text for a sympathy card with VersaFine Onyx black ink. When you press straight down, don't press too hard and don't wobble, you get a great print even with a clear block. I now heat emboss this text with ALINACRAFT transparent embossing powder. It looks so much better when the text is heat embossed. You can see it shine and feel the structure. I die cut this text together with the black piece of paper. I have already done the bottom edge. Then I move the white strip a little bit and now I will die cut the top edge as well. I use the wave dies. You will find a link for them in the description. Here I made a similar text banner with the word congratulations. You can see that unfortunately the embossing gloss is lost after die cutting. There is a solution for that. By reheating the text, the shine comes back. There is almost no difference with the one that has not been die cut. And so the card turned out that I made with remaining scraps of the orange piece of paper. I made all 3 strips black with a permanent marker. I made the same flower as for the other card, only there are no leaves on the stem. And I die cut petals alternating between orange and black. I didn't double glue them, but I did glue them raised, see, with a foam block at the end and then with regular glue here in the middle of the flower and the stem. Here's the text banner that I stamped and die cut with the wave dies. The with sympathy text is heat embossed. And the white pointed gap I cut out myself with scissors. This way the card matches perfectly with the envelope where I ink blended directly onto the paper and where I drew lines with a permanent marker. Then I also have the other card. There I did stick some strips on the envelope and also colored black stripes. I drew a black line along this flower die, while with the flower that's on the card I glued an extra black die behind it, which created a nice shadow. I hope you liked my video and leave a thumbs up. Also thanks for all your nice comments you write in the description, that really brightens up my day. Card making makes me happy and hearing I inspired you makes me even more happy. My own YouTube channel is Cisvolk. Will you also become a subscriber to my channel if you watched via ALINACRAFT's channel? You can find all my videos over there and are noticed if a new video has been published when you push on the bell button. There are links of the stencils, the dies and all other products in the description below this video. I earn a small commission on them if you use them at no extra costs to you. Enjoy card making and I will see you next time. Bye bye!